pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Today is Tuesday, March the 18th, 6 p.m. This is a regular meeting of the Greensburg Water Board. Have a roll call. Donna?
Chuck?
Here.
Tony?
Here.
Frank?
Here.
Iris?
Here.
Robin?
February 18th meeting, the minutes from February 18th meeting were distributed in the packet. Any objections or corrections to the minutes distributed? Not, they'll be accepted. The Holland Lease, correct? Any force on that?
We do not. I don't have any more information on that. I don't know if, no, I got Nate some stuff if he wanted to give you an update on what he has found on that property at the river.
Sure, I'd be happy to fill you in on what little I have been able to discover. Chris and I spent some time doing research into what this board permissibly may do as far as a sale of that sort of property if it wanted to, in addition to leasing it or in place of leasing it. That is an option. However, there are a couple of different statutory schemes for disposing of property by a board like this, and which statutory scheme it fits into would depend upon how much it's appraised for. But no matter which statutory scheme you use, you have to have it appraised by two different licensed appraisers, and then depending on that amount, you might fit into different schemes, and a handful of other factors as well as certain kinds of land use or abutting property owners and that sort of thing. So the procedure after deciding to sell it might vary depending on which scheme you're in, but it's certainly something that you could entertain doing it at some future date. And if you wanted to start the ball rolling, your best bet would be to authorize Mr. Denny to have it appraised by two different appraisers and start getting that information back. That doesn't bind you to anything, but it would start the ball rolling, make sure you had enough information, no matter which statutory scheme you decided to operate under thereafter. In the meantime, I think the lease needed to be done relatively quickly.
April 1st is when the lease is supposed to take effect, so my suggestion would be go ahead and let's do it. Lease it one more year to Mr. Holland. And then, you know, if that's something we're still interested in, I would think that we would want to survey off what we want to keep in particular, right? To make sure, because
I believe that's right.
so we'd have a survey off if that's what the board's wishes are, and then have what was left over to be appraised.
I'll make the motion that we go ahead and sign the lease with Holland's for another year on the property that reservoir.
I'll second it.
Motion been made and seconded. Donna?
Chuck?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Iris? Yes.
You have the numbers on that, Donna?
That was
22,1250
per half.
per half.
North water line contract.
What this is, if you remember 3 years ago, the TIF agreed to pay for a 12-inch water line to extend from the bypass, Freedom Road, across to tie in eventually over to 421. Well, now with the 150 North project going on out there, Veterans Way, it's just, we're going to run into so many conflicts if this water line is not part of that project. So Structure Point has offered to put the water line in the scope of their project, and the price of that is $37,870. Now keep in mind, this money will be paid for with the TIF money. And I believe we have other monies we can possibly use also from the original TIF district, correct? So I know we still have two, I believe we have two easements that we have to acquire, one being across the Shiger property, and the other one is the apartment complex out there. And I believe Gary just checked back up on that, did you say?
Yeah, they kind of have preliminary, they've got a HUD loan on the property, so they need approval from HUD to grant any easements. I heard they had preliminary approval from HUD, but I hadn't heard anything after that, so I followed up just before this meeting to see where that's at. The construction of this water line, when we do the Veterans Way project, materials for the length that was to be under the Honda TIF, that those will be separate pay items, so it'll be really easy to split it out on one of those railroad contractors submit it. So they've been instructed carefully to keep it separate.
So instead of us going through there, putting the water line in, or vice versa, and then they come in and put a new road in, then it's all gonna be done together, so. Which only makes sense. And I think Gary has a contract.
I've reviewed it, it's pretty standard for plain language. It's the exact same conditions that the city signed with their contract with construction point for the design of the road and utilities on west of Moscow. So,
You need that signed in
we
here.
do if the board would so approve it.
Any discussion? I got any comments or? I'll make a motion to approve the water line contract for $150 project. Second. Motion been made and seconded. Don, got a roll call?
Chuck,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Frank,
Yep.
Iris,
Yes.
Consumer confidence report approval.
This is what we do every March, it's the same thing. It's a consumer confidence report. It was, I did submit it to IDEM a couple weeks ago, and I think this is the first year I actually got a response within 24 hours, so, I originally forgot to put my violation. If you'll notice, this is the first violation listed in our CCR. Down at the bottom, if you're wondering. It is upside down because circle printing just made me 10 of them to pass out, and he did them upside down, but once we get to 4,500 of them printed, they will be corrected. So the wording and everything is correct. And results.
There you go.
Down at the bottom, I am gonna mention this, it says violations, I take full responsibility. I failed to collect a back T sample from well number 5 after my last sanitary survey said I didn't have my proper setback, which is with 200 foot. So anytime I run number 5, 6, 7, or 2, anytime during that month I have to send in a back T sample from that particular well. My sanitary survey was completed, I believe, in February. They said, and for whatever reason, these wells have been in place for 35 years. Anytime I run these wells, I gotta get a back T sample. March come around, I ran well number 5 and didn't even think another thing about it until April 1st, and I get the call from IDEM and says, hey, it shows here you ran number 5 well, do you have a back T sample? Nope. I totally overlooked it, and that's what that is. So at that time, I went out and collected a back T sample, sent it in to environmental labs, and come back clear. So that's what the violation. You did see it in the paper here a month or so ago. Originally, they told me I could put it in my CCR, which is fine. I really didn't want to change the format of my CCR, so I ran it in the paper, and then IDM calls me back and says, oh no, you got to put it in your CCR too. So it could have just been in here without being in the paper, but that's how that happened. Anyways, you got any questions on it? It's the same thing year after year after year.
You got to call right away from them.
Yes. Anytime, and you know, I even tried to, I didn't fight with it by no means, but I just asked the question. I said, okay, you want me to pull a back T sample from a well that is untreated water. It goes through its own package plant. That does not make sense to me if there is some kind of bacteria in that well, but it's clear coming out the finished water product, and then our system's doing what it needs to do. It's taking care of the problem. So, but it was no answer. This is the rule, and you're going to abide by it. So.
Like some other things, they never have an answer.
Yes. Yeah. The sanitary survey, I might have already told you this, but it was the most, in the 14 years that I've been superintendent, it was the most stringent survey I've ever been through. I had 5 IDM employees, and they were down there for 2 days. And they went through everything, all the way down to expiration dates on our chemicals. And next month, and we had a really good, you know, I think we had 3 or 4 violations, minor. Violet one was paint chipping on our railing.
Screen or something?
Yeah. Did I already give you guys a copy of the survey? The results?
I think so.
Okay. I can do it again next month also, if you wish. You know exactly what we got dinged on, but it was pretty good. It turned out really good.
I'll make the motion to accept the consumer confidence report as submitted.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded.
Chuck?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Iris? Yes.
Very good. Water adjustment account, 12/20/91.
What you have in your packets is pretty much what I have. I have not talked to the gentleman. I don't know if Donna has personally, or if he just submitted the letter.
I did speak to him personally, and he paid a bill from the previous month where he had a big leak and we adjusted his sewer portion. And I believe he paid $300 and some on that bill. And then the next month, the water somehow got turned back on after we'd shut it off. So it ran from like December 18th to January 8th. And nobody knows how it got turned back on, so he's contesting that. He believed that it was off.
That's me.
It was a lot of water. Oh.
I'm here.
Okay.
I showed that just in case you had any questions. My concern on it was because,
Come up here.
sure, thank you.
Yep, sorry, I didn't know.
I'm sorry, I
No,
was.
that's okay. No, I didn't, they told me I didn't need to come, but I figured I would in case y'all had questions. But what happened, it's a rental property I have, and there was no one living in it. Well, it blew my mind to turn the water off when it got cold and I had a leak. Well, Tim Schroeder and another gentleman actually went to the house and found water spraying out the back of the property. So they shut the water off. Well, when I got the bill, it was somewhere around the end of December. You know, I'm like panicking on the phone. So I called him on Friday. I didn't get a hold of him on it. And Janet called me back Tuesday morning and let me know that the water had been shut off December 16th. So I was like, well, that's good. You know I'm not going to have another huge bill. So, being it was so cold and everything, and it's a rental property, it's been empty for 3 months already, and I hadn't planned on renting it out back until spring, I wouldn't worry about it until I get my next bill. I get a $900 bill in the mail. So I'm like, wait a minute, you know, and I personally spoke to Tim Schroeder. He's the one that was over there, shut the water off, and told me that it wouldn't be turned back on until the leak was fixed, and I would bring proof up there to get it fixed. So that's why I'm contesting the bill. I had no problems paying the bill, you know, because that was my negligence. But after that, there's no way, no one's been living there. So, I mean, I certainly want to turn the water off.
Right.
I don't know if it was the hoodlums out there and that, because it's kind of a bad place out Vista, but that's kind of why I wrote the letter and I'm contesting the bill. Any questions, guys? I mean,
I mean, if you shut it off, how?
I didn't shut it
No,
off.
I didn't say.
The water.
Yeah. Since I'm looking at it, the water was shut off, how would somebody know to turn it back on? Off the meter or cover or?
Frank, people get meter pits all the time. It's hard to say. It could have been it could have possibly been a neighbor, you know, trying to turn his water on. So I don't know.
You kinda gotta know that.
I know that we wouldn't have done it.
No.
Obviously, he wouldn't have done it. You know, no, there's a leak there. Somebody turned the water on. You know, and
Didn't you guys put a lock on it too?
I don't take care of that part of it, so I can't answer.
Well, I had heard from someone that there was a lock installed on it because, you know, the problem was being turned on and it was actually cut off. So, and I know they wouldn't have done that.
So there was a lock, it was cut off?
Well, he doesn't know
I
that.
can't answer
That's just
that.
something that I personally heard from someone else, and that didn't come from Tim Schroeder. He actually got hold of my sister, went to school with her, let her know, and I run into Tim afterwards, and I've known him for years, and he said, yeah, that water was really spraying out the back of the trailer. So, you know, I had someone move in the 1st of March, and thought, you know, we had the water repaired, so I called up to get the water turned on, and Lord knows I find 2 more leaks. So we had to get it turned back off, and I've got it fixed now, but, I just wrote the letter to let you guys know exactly what happened. Donna was real helpful when I went in to pay the bill that I feel like I was obligated to pay that. I mean, that was my negligence by not getting water turned off before it got cold, so it was my leak. But after December 16th, when the water was off, and I was informed by 2 separate employees of the Decatur County Water Department that the water was off, or I'm sorry, Greensburg Municipal Water Company, that the water was off, that, you know, I kind of just, I wasn't worried about it, because I knew I wouldn't go run it out till spring.
When they turned it back on, was there any lock broke off in there?
I don't see
That would have been
any
immediate.
record of a lock being on there.
That is
with
true.
the
They
information
turned
that
it
I
back
have,
on,
but
right? We
I'm
turned
sorry.
it back on?
when he requested it,
Yeah.
I thought he noticed the lock being in there, we would have did that.
Yeah,
That I
I
don't know, I don't have that.
I wasn't even actually there that day when they turned it back on. The gal that's living it now was there when they come back to turn it back on.
So you don't typically lock those? I mean, where does that come from?
We don't, the only time they'll lock them is if we turn, if they're off on the, non-payment list, and they find it turned back on, then they'll lock it before meter. We got a call just the other day, that meter running out of the meter pit, and somebody had actually got the meter pit, we pulled the meter, and they turned the water on anyways. And it was just rolling out of the meter pit, so. I don't know if they thought it was just like an air gap, and it was still gonna push it to the pipe. I don't know. This is kind of a little different than what we've dealt with in the past, I think. I mean, I don't think we've ever had anybody, you know, the non-resident or the non-owner get in somebody's meter pit and turn the water on. It's a little different scenario here.
The one last month was the same type thing, they had no idea, well, they got back on, that was where it was on and busted. Somebody opened the back door, broke into their house, and started, all the pipes froze up and busted. The request last month. It's kind of why I started, which is the water adjustment policy discussion, to have an actual policy. It's listed 2 more down on the agenda. To get something started to where we can have a policy to go by.
Yeah.
Which I know is not in effect right now. It's gonna get worse. We just now, this whole month, we're making sure we get a reading. We have not been able to read some of these meters for 4 months. This particular one, we went back and read,
Yeah,
Because
that's
we
when they
had a
found
leak
it back
before,
on
and that's
again.
when
Tim
we
said he
found it
went
back
back
on.
over to do the reading, make sure that it
Right,
was fixed, but
just
I don't
make
even know
sure.
why they would've went to read it when it was turned off. That's what puzzled me when
Yeah.
Donna said it to me. She said they went back over to get a reading,
Yeah. We
but why
do it-
take a reading when they shut it off December 16th?
We do it just to make sure.
But it's a good thing you
any-
did.
Any big leaks or anything
Right.
you think is gonna be a problem, we'll go back and read them.
Right, well, it's a good thing you did.
Prioritize those.
Well, this is that gray area because it's technically the meter. So I don't know, it's not the customer's side, it's the Greensburg side. So, how do you look at that for?
The unfortunate part, it went through his metered, it's metered and it's on his bill now.
So we're looking at $956.85, is that right?
The amount, as far as the, requested adjusted amount, is just the, high bill of $384.64. And the adjustment requesting, if it would go down to a normal bill, would be $373.33. The second listing is tax. We already paid for the first
Right.
by consumption.
Yeah, the 629 or
Right.
628, I
It
paid an adjusted amount, and then
Yeah.
that's what I was asking for relief of, was the $900 and some dollar bill that I got.
Yeah. Right. the
Because
total
that was
amount
the
is-
usage from the time it was supposed to be shut off December 16th until they shut it off the second time. And I got that bill.
This was a radio ring, we would have known it immediately. We'll be notified, we'll get notification of tampering and everything else.
Yeah, that's neat.
That'll be, it's a good system.
Can I ask a question? Is the water leak adjustment policy something that the board is interested in?
I don't think so, but I mean, we never have, that's the thing. Right.
No,
No,
we've
we've
never
never had a
adjusted the
formal
water.
policy. Sewer does, but the water doesn't. I just made this one up to kind of mimic what the sewer is on a different side of circumstances to be able to get, just to get the ball rolling.
Once we get all the meters.
We'll be notified and, we should never really run into an extremely high bill. It would be a 24-hour window that you'd be looking at, not 20 days.
That's outstanding.
25 days, yeah.
Yeah.
It would be super.
Is Mr. Melcher? Is that
Yes,
right?
yes.
Okay. I didn't know you, and I know the people watching back home didn't either. You could actually probably sit down if they're gonna
Okay.
discuss the policy.
All right, thank you, sir.
Well, I think it's just like everybody, I mean, we've rejected so many of them before that I think the reluctance in making exception is.
We used to allow one adjustment per residence per year at one time. And that was overturned 15 years ago, probably, since we allowed adjustments. And it's just in our policy that we don't adjust unless we're responsible. You know, I sympathize with the customers, you know, I mean, that's a pretty good fight to take, but you would want to establish another policy for adjustments at this time, with this new system coming on, and even if we establish a policy, is that gonna help Mr. Belcher? Now, because it won't have been in effect. So, you know, I mean, that's my opinion, that we deny it, or we wanna take that, you know, establish a new league policy. That's, on the other hand, right now, just like I said, we don't have one, so if you got a leak, it's your responsibility, other than taking sewer portion.
We'll make a comment about an adjustment policy for the future. Even if there was a radio read, you still, I mean, we can go out and shut off a service the next day when we get notified. If that consumer decides to leave it on and try to get it fixed or whatever, there still could be considerable water usage. Yeah, there still could be circumstances, so don't let that cloud it that there won't be, because there still could be. Just because we will be notified soon. It's a great thing to have, but there still could be different circumstances.
Mr. Chairman, just for a point of information, the research that I did on this earlier today indicated that if you wanted to offer adjustments, the statutory scheme does require having a set policy in place before you do that. So I don't know what you've done in the past, but going forward, whenever have you had like of course, actually wanted to have the possibility of adjustment in the future.
Anybody got anything for me? Frankie?
So we don't really have one, we don't have a policy. That's what we have to do.
At this point, I would recommend not having a policy or not making a policy right now. Policy. I mean, if we haven't had one before, we've got these new meters coming in. Why would we create a policy now? I don't know. Saying we're not gonna have much of any kind of thing on the meter system.
Right.
Spending a lot of money for that.
adjusted to, we don't have a policy in place. It's on the customer side, I guess, if you will. Based on our lack of that policy.
Motion been made and seconded. Roll call.
Chuck,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Frank,
Yes.
Iris?
We will, allow you to, take more time and.
I can't. I mean, I'm strapped now. I don't see how I should be level till wild or something. I did everything possible to take care of it. But, it is what it is. I drive a truck for you up there, Ron, so. Have a good day.
Meter project update. Rick?
I'm gonna throw that one to Donna. She's been working with Smitty.
Okay.
She has all the numbers.
And it's gonna be brief. We do have all the Hillcrest and Ridgecrest meters installed, which are located inside either their garage or their apartment. So that was a good task to have completed. We still have a few issues to iron out on the meter swap file and the customer interface file. It's basically moving data from both of the programs. We run into a lot of glitches, and once we get that, all those issues resolved, my goal was to hopefully have everything in line by the end of this month, so we can take off and start being aggressive again as soon as the weather breaks. Rick's crew has the lids drilled in Route 1, and almost Route 2 is completed. And we have 31 routes total, so we have a ways to go, but it's a work in progress. That's about it. At this point, we have, let's see here, 456 accounts for meters in so far.
What's our projected timeline for finishing?
If we could get the software working right, where the meter, or all the swap files work right, we could probably be done, I would assume this next year. If we have all the lids drilled and everything's rolling smoothly and all the data up and down. Because when they do work and everything's going smoothly, it's pretty slick. I actually went out and installed the other day. It's cool how it works. It's just the data coming in. We've had a lot of problems with data getting on the wrong accounts and messed up. So still working with the dual port issue as well, which our city has pits with 2 meters in it. So we bought like one miner with 2 antennas that are links to the meters. And we've got to make sure that that's working properly as well. They're not, the second port is not coming in to the data file. So that's got to get resolved as well. I think Route 1 and 2 are almost all dual ports. So we've got a lot to finish there before we move on. Other than that, it's getting there. We've been aggressive emailing back and forth between the companies and making sure things are going on. That's about it.
So another question, so are we doing a manual read and then comparing it to the data?
What we can do, once those meters are in there, we can print out the readings from it, and then we upload manually put those in. We're not actually bringing that file in yet, but they have to go out and manually read. We're not manually reading the digital readings, no. If they can be picked up, we bring them in. But they're having to manually jump around all the other ones that are on those routes, like the dual ports and stuff like that. It's gonna be super once it gets all these little niches. That's typical. I mean, garbage in, garbage out. If the data flow's not right, it's gonna be problems. It'll get there, hopefully by the end of this month. It's kind of our goal, being really aggressive, working with 2 different programmers with different companies. It's hard to get the both working aggressive on it.
So do you have a number as of how many meters have been installed by now?
456. And those are great. With that, we've notified a lot of customers of high consumption. And it's great to be able to like pinpoint, you can hover over the day and you can tell them what time of day that they're using the water. Oh, okay. That is right. I will check my commode. Yes, I am up all night. But it's fantastic for the customer service so far.
Or my cat did.
Absolutely. We've had that before. Yeah.
Have you seen that on YouTube? The lady was complaining she had a high water bill, so they had it narrowed down to the toilet flushing. So she set up a hidden camera and her cat was bouncing off the wall and flushing the commode and just kept doing it. Back and forth.
That's great.
Yeah. Very good. Water leak adjustment policy, do we want to take this on, as John's got us a little policy written up
Yeah,
here?
totally beginning point, just to see if, I know we're gonna have a lot of, at least I foresee a lot of problems after a lot of these meters not being read for 3 to 4 months. There's gonna be high bills, would be my guess, but just like Mr. Harder stated, you do have to have a policy to be able to adjust water, and statute does provide that. I don't know what the IC code is, I've got it somewhere.
Okay, now you indicated, there might be a lot of high water usage because they haven't been read for a couple of months, but, I mean, if it's normal and they're just expecting they're getting a bigger bill, because it's just like the natural gas.
Right.
My meter wasn't read, now I'm waiting for my big gas bill. But is there just a policy or something where instead of paying a big chunk at one time, they can at least, make it out to low payments or something?
Yeah, we do have a
With that.
payment account, and yes.
Okay.
I think, I'm looking at it, I think maybe we might be looking at it wrong. I think what Don is saying is if you don't read your meter for 3 months, and that leak actually started that first month, and it goes continuous for 3 solid months, it's gonna be a lot higher than if it was caught, if we can read it that second month. You see what I'm saying? And I don't know if that's why.
That's what I was
Is
talking
that
about.
what you're trying to?
Consideration,
Yes.
vacant properties or,
Yes.
people
Yeah.
live, spend the summer or winters in Florida and
It's not necessarily our fault that we can't read the meter, because we don't wanna open them lids when it gets
Right.
below 20 degrees, but, we can't, it causes more problems, but I can also understand the other side of it too, where if this was read in January instead of waiting until March, I'd only pay, $300 instead of $1,000, so I think that's what she's wanting to kind of curtail before it starts, they start coming
Absolutely,
in.
have an answer. If you decided that you would want to adjust water, I just thought I would get the ball rolling to have something in place so we don't have 50 people in here question, because I have to offer that to them.
15 years ago, it's had to happen before.
Yeah, I mean,
So I think it's-
that's why we have a water board, it's totally your decision, but, and I was not here at the time we used to do the adjustments, do you remember that?
I think
It's longer
one
than
of the
15
mayors
years ago,
did.
Chuck.
Years, yeah, it's been longer than that.
How long you been on the board, Chuck?
I'm gonna say like 19. No.
Yeah.
That's right.
you let me forward in life, but
Oh,
shoot. Not quite that one.
Well, I think so many, just like that number 4, the reason you threw that out to begin with years ago is that people get taken advantage of. And then you have to investigate thoroughly, and then you policies are good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of detail you're going to put into it as well.
Yep, that's what
But
we
beyond
did
your
with the
control,
sewer.
that could be that I forgot the book.
Yeah.
So it could be a really gray area on some of those. So make, give us the ability to adjust, but then you, somebody like me is gonna ask way too many questions, because we've been taking advantage of the court, so, that's where the lawyers come in. That's right. Put some legal language in there, define it. Not in my control.
Yeah, the mayor had me add to, only one adjustment for residents will be allowed. He just said will be allowed, and I don't know if he meant per year or per what. So I just threw that in.
I
Maybe
honestly,
before the end of the day.
just my opinion, I like to see it one time only, because it's the same places usually that we
Yeah.
go back to every year. And they know when it gets zero out that their lines are gonna freeze and they're gonna bust, but for some reason,
Yeah.
they just don't take the initiative to do whatever they need to do to keep that from happening, so.
Yeah, this year was definitely an exception to a lot of rules, but you're exactly right on preventative maintenance, you have to be responsible.
We got into that, when you get into medical receipts and repairs, somebody's gonna have to review those things as well. I mean, they're all good, but it's gonna take time to.
You're gonna have to dot your i's and cross your t's. You're still gonna have the, you know, my boy left my garden hose on for 2 days before I caught it, but we'll just tell him it was an underground leak and, you know, here's a fake receipt. You're still gonna have that.
Yeah, I mean, we're still gonna.
Exactly.
Can be a liar's club.
Yeah.
Is this open for discussion or tweaking?
Oh, absolutely, I was
Okay.
just, this was just, I came up with this with ideas. I've got the sewer one, if anybody would want that sent to them, so you can see how the sewer side goes. I was just, put thought into it and thought what might be fair for some really large bills. Like his even, I don't even think could have been adjusted if we went under like option 4, if it was over $400, you know? So just food for thought, if the board would decide
Well,
they
this
would
is
like to.
somewhere to start. I think you're
Yeah.
always gonna have exceptions, except in
Right.
some criteria that definite need or whatever, but, I think maybe if you put a, you know, number 5 down there and allow only one adjustment on it,
Mhm.
I would be willing to start with this.
I know.
And see where we come from.
And I'm thinking on that one adjustment, maybe a time, I was thinking like a 5 year.
Put one adjustment every 5
out
years.
every 5 years. That way if you've got a problem, you have a line that deteriorates or something.
You'd be able to track that with you, Don, through your records.
We put it on the, yeah, the actual locations.
Now what happens, is that for the one customer? Or
Yeah.
what if
One
that property
customer, one
changes
customer.
hands, so then you get one guy that does it, the next property owner does it. You can sell the property a couple times and nobody ever fix it because they're gonna get the money back.
Say, per property owner.
I would say property owner too, not
Per
the,
property.
not the
Per
renter
property.
that's got the water in their name.
Owner and property.
Yeah.
Because, you stated earlier that some properties, you're having repeat occurrences on it, so you don't want to get into that, so.
Anything else need to be addressed in there or not?
So this is, I mean, this still is open for discussion.
Yes.
Okay, I've got I know a couple other people on some other boards, and look into what they might do as well.
Yes, sir.
Pick up at a lot of those meetings that we decide.
That's up to you too. When you get finished up.
policy. KSAP, that's possible.
Yeah, it's possible to pass this, to suspend whatever rules you have and pass it multiple times even. I don't know how often you guys pass new policies here. You just want to amend the proposal. You also have, you'd have to have a separate motion to amend it, since it wasn't submitted, the changes that you made here spoken, but I guess.
You want to go ahead and put it in play without any other discussion?
Well, I think the sooner the better, just like I said, coming off this winter like we have, like, that, I do think it needs to be amended. So maybe we'll let Donna amend it, bring it up before the board next month, and then vote on it.
Yeah, maybe put together something you
You can move the table until next month if you wanted to have the resubmit the proposal and further discussion if you wanted to there.
I guess I'm kind of concerned, because we'll do a policy, but that doesn't have for all the recent people we sent it
Right.
to. You know, I don't think it's fair to them. You know.
Well, it's not really, but we don't have a policy as of now. You know, how do we?
You really do anything about the policy, right?
So,
Your hands are tied, basically.
come up with some other thought. Just we can let her know when you table it till next, instead of amend the time frame on there.
right now, there hasn't been a motion on this proposal, and so you wouldn't even have to amend anything. Whatever she came back with next time, you could move to accept that proposal as written.
So I think it's a board, wants you to put something in there about one adjustment per property or property owner during a 5-year period. Is that my understanding?
That's what,
I think 5 years is fair,
would you say one period?
That's what that was my recommendation, but
So it's like one adjustment per property owner during a 5-year period?
wouldn't be, what if somebody had 10 properties, be per property.
Per property, per owner? Or you want it back out with the revisions and then you guys chop it up and whatever, and that's okay to do that, and then
That should be
like
fine.
email them back and forth?
That should be fine if you want your own personal preferences for
Yes.
the proposal.
Okay.
You can't make any decisions via email, but you can certainly have it. Since you discussed it today, you might move to table it until next month.
I make a motion, we table the water leak adjustment policy until April's meeting.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Roll call.
Chuck?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Iris?
Yes.
I have one other thing that I did not put on the agenda.
What do you
And
got?
I'll use the mayor's issues and everything. I met with a gentleman, week and a half ago, and he wants to come to the water board next month and do a little, it's like a little 30-minute presentation. And it's utility systems, something or other. And I believe this company, from him, they had purchased the water tower contracts from Phoenix.
Utility services?
Utility Services Group, that's it. Construction one's got me messed up. Utility Services Group. What he wants to do is propose something for our water towers. And if you remember in the past, there was contracts out there brought to the board that wanted us to, strip the tank, paint the tank, do what, get it all up to par, and then for so much a year they would take over. This utility systems group wants to come in and do a presentation. We do absolutely nothing to the tank. The the tower, they charge so much, and this is a lifetime contract. They charge so much, and each year it drops off less and less and less. So actually, I guess what you're doing is you're actually paying for this tower to be painted like the South Tower, and it's specified in the contract. I asked him specifically, I said, okay, now is this something that he will come to me and say, well, we got 5 more years before we need this tank painted? Because I said, my board's not gonna wanna hear that. They're gonna see black and white that this tank gets painted every 12 years, no matter what. You know, it's not gonna be he said, she said. But if it's okay with the water board, and if you know much about this group, Frank, if you do, chime in and help me out here. Is it something that the board would wish to look at, or is this just something that you want me to just say, you know what, the board's not really interested in that right now, so we really don't want to waste our time. So
They bought a lot of maintenance contracts, utility services all over the United States, so they're a big company. So I don't think it hurt to listen.
I will say